Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for coming here today. My name is Tomás O'Leary. I am the CEO and founder of Origina. And we have a few empty seats. I'm sure the people come from lunch will be coming in to join us shortly. Delighted to be here in Orlando. I'd like to say to you today that my job here, and the reason I've come all the way from Ireland, is to save you guys. All right? Save you here and save everybody else out there who wants to be saved from what? Well, from software costs and software charges that are excessive, particularly regarding maintenance costs, from unanswered phone calls to technical support lines, having to go through multiple triage elements to get support in the first place, from smoke and mirrors, so much smoke and mirrors you could open up a fairground attraction with the amount of smoke and mirrors they put in their contracts and their license terms, the hidden bombs that exist. They put it on a renewal notice today and they expose in about 5 years' time to catch you out on something you didn't spot. From being unable to get the skills that you need, the skills and expertise that you need in your business, and you cannot get what you should be able to get to support your businesses going forward. And from just help, to be able to get help, somebody to help you to do your job, somebody to help you to do your job on a day-to-day basis, and that's what we're here to do. Also, price rises. What's the CPI rate? I don't know about the United States, but I know about Europe. There hasn't been inflation in Europe for about 10 years we're talking about. I think it's similar here in the US. You've got CPI index inflation rates being added to your contracts. There is no inflation. It costs them less every year. Some of these companies boast about the fact that they spend less money on support each subsequent year in their annual reports. And they put it in the reports. They have the cheek to do that. And what I'm saying to you today, I'm going to save you from that. I'd love to tell you I can save you from an audit. All right? Unfortunately, I can't save you from an audit. But what we can do at Origina, we can help you. We can help you understand what have you bought. Where in the bowels of the IBM Passport Advantage system can you find the records that you need to be able to match that up with your... Yeah, please take some seats, ladies and gentlemen. There's plenty of seats here. Sit down. We'd love to have you. Please don't... There's no need to stand up. Saving is much easier when you're sitting down. I don't have to catch anybody, you know. But ultimately what I'm trying to save everybody from, I'm trying to save you from fear. I'm trying to save you, please have a seat. I'm trying to save you from fear, from the fact that you don't know what you can do. The fear that you're uncertain what's in your contracts. And that's what we're about at Origina. We want to help you. We want to get into the detail and we want to help you understand what your rights are. And in particular, we're getting to with IBM. Okay, I have a case study I want to show you. But before I want to do that, I want to show you, I'm assuming everybody here is an IBM software, IBM customer user. Why else would you be here? Okay, is that a safe assumption to make? So, we're all familiar with the term, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. Well, increasingly, people are asking that as a question. Okay? Now, this is not a dig at IBM, to be perfectly honest with you. They have got the exact same problems as everybody else has out there. All right? Change is happening to companies, to your companies and to their company. But let's be honest, that's not your problem. You're not working for IBM. You're working for your organization, and you need to understand it's happening to them and it's impacting them, the services that they're providing to you and how you do things. I'm going to give you a case study of a company, an organization that's based in Europe, okay? I have changed some details to protect the innocent or the guilty, whichever way you look, and I'm going to take it reasonably quickly because I'm conscious of time. Okay, a company based in Europe, Asian parent, okay? Usual problems, cost reduction, new digital platforms, all the stuff that you're going to see every single day in your own businesses, all right? You've got 2 years ago, IBM on audit. This is the stuff that just, it's absolutely crazy. You spend 25, 30, 40 years building up relationships with companies, and then in the space of 12, 18 months, you destroy that relationship by trying to look for short-term gain. Audits, they're just nasty. They're becoming increasingly nasty. And of course, this particular customer wasn't happy at the end of it and was trying to find any reason to terminate their relationship locally within Europe, okay? As well as obviously meet their own goals. Their own goals, they had to do cost reduction, but they couldn't get any help. Even after the audit, they could get no assistance. Nobody would tell them how many agreements did they have. Could they consolidate their agreements? What were they able to do? How many licenses had they actually bought? How many had been assigned by their Asian parent? Nobody would tell them anything. They couldn't get any information, and they met us. And that's where we were able to help them. And some of you, I can see some faces I see familiar here. You've probably spoken to us yesterday at our stand. You're asking us, what do we do next? So this is what I'm going to show you exactly what we do next with organizations like yours, okay? The first thing we do is we look for the detail, right? Because it is all about the detail. We have to know what part numbers you have and what quantities. We love part numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, we love part numbers. And I'll tell you why we love part numbers. Because they tell us everything we need to know to be able to help you. They tell us what the license term is. They tell us about the product evolution. They tell us how many versions the product has. They tell us how many, roughly, broadly, how much was IBM's market share in that business. It tells us how many resources IBM have. It tells us where they are based, where their center of excellence, their ex-labs are. Have they moved any of these people to India, wherever they may be? Have they moved to Singapore? We know everything about every one of these products once we see the part numbers. So when we ask you about part numbers and quantities, that's why we're asking, because we can then tell you so much information from that. Now we do this, and this is part of our pre-sales engagement. We don't charge for this because we have this information. We have spent 6-7 years building this up into a platform that we want to give to you for nothing, okay? But there's no such thing as a free lunch, as they say. But ultimately, we want to open your eyes to the possibility. Lou Holtz yesterday, I don't know if how many of you saw Lou Holtz. I'd never seen him before. I heard a little bit about him. I'm obviously from Ireland. I watch a little bit of American football. College football is probably not what I... But he was amazing. He was talking about choices. And that's what we've got to think about, ladies and gentlemen. It's about choices. This is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all. This customer came along in a bad place, and they presented this to us. So what do we do with this? Okay, so we have a 3-step poach. First thing is part numbers and quantities. Okay, we've got those. Second thing is, what are you doing with the products? Now, at this point in the journey, we're only talking to procurement and software asset management. We're not talking to IT because we don't really know yet, can we help them? We just know that they're annoyed. We know what they want to do, but we don't know for sure if we can help them. So we need more information, ladies and gentlemen. So we got to understand, what are you doing with the products? Now, this isn't that difficult to find out. A few conversations, ladies and gentlemen, you are all connected in your business. You will know roughly what is happening with the products within your business. Are you going to continue to invest in it? Is it going to grow? Is it going to be sunset? So what we're trying to do is build a picture up to see, is this going to work for you guys? Then we say, okay, what versions are you on? People always ask us, why do you want to know what versions you're on? Well, that's really important, because if you look at this, think about every single one of those part numbers, and we look after 15,000 individual part numbers, okay? A lot of detail around each one of those, but for every one of those part numbers, there's multiple versions, okay? What are you going to do? Which version are you on? And in almost every case, we see situations where we meet organizations and they tell us they're on one version. But the version they're on, and they think they're on the latest version. But the passage of time, we're so busy in work, we forget, oh, that project was 3 years ago. Well, that was the latest version 3 years ago, but it's not the latest version anymore. And what do you want? In some cases, you're actually back here. You're past that line. This line is a moving line. It keeps moving. To be fair, it's slowed down a little bit recently, but it's still moving, and it's catching you out. So what does it mean? Well, it means actually, ladies and gentlemen, you can't log a call with IBM for support, because they won't take the call. Even after you go through the 15 steps of triage to get somebody at the end of the call, they'll tell you, no, you've got to upgrade, or no, you've got to buy extended support from us to be able to get support. And that again is wrong. What is the difference? These products are stable. They can easily support these products. There's actually no business rationale for switching this off, except that they don't want to do it, and they've let the people go in their business who actually know anything about these products, ladies and gentlemen. So what did we learn through the process? A number of things, okay? Remember, we're collecting information. That's all we're doing. We're doing this from the asset managers and the procurement professional. Two different parts of the business. One understands the use of the products, he has access to the IT. One that has a better idea of the contracts, okay? And that's really important. And contracts have details around licensing, but also commercial details. So at some point in the journey, ladies and gentlemen, they have to share with us, or we worked out on the basis of the process we use to be able to access what level of pricing are they paying. This particular customer, through their Asian parent, had access to Band J pricing, less 50% for all new software and all the renewal software. They had, looking at our model initially, they said, well, Cognos, we're going to keep Cognos. And actually, what one of the challenges was, they couldn't get to the Cognos people. There was one product, they didn't have a visibility what they were doing with the product early on in the cycle. So what they did is we said, okay, if we're not sure, we leave it in the pot. So So we leave it in the IBM scenario. Information server again. There was a new version coming out that they needed to have for that particular module they were using, and they wanted to make sure they captured that. At the end of their SNS with IBM, they would have lost the opportunity to take that automatically. Okay, so it's important to understand about versions, what's happening with the product, and this is what we do for you, ladies and gentlemen. Then what we did is we said, okay, WebSphere, Infomix, MQ, they can come to us. Okay, now. This is again a scenario. We're building a scenario. We're not saying the deal is done. We're saying what would happen if you move these three to us and you left two behind with IBM. What would happen? Pricing impact. Well, we had to make some assumptions. Some of this detail is available at the time, some may not have been. So we have to work with the customer. What happens? Remember, there's two scenarios here. Scenario A, you stay with IBM for the next 5 years, okay? What happens? You know your discounts, you make certain assumptions about what's going to happen in the future. It's probably reasonably, you have a reasonable knowledge about where you can go. Scenario B is where you actually start to migrate and move some of these products away from IBM. And you need to understand what those two scenarios might look like. I'll just go through these reasonably quickly. Okay, so what you're trying to do is look at, okay, what happens to the discounts? What happens to the price increases? Remember, in our case, some of you may have been in some of these sessions earlier by Gartner. They've spotted actually we reduce our prices every year by 7.5% as a matter of policy and a matter of contract. Why? Because it actually costs us less money every year once we've done the first year. It's logical. You know, it's like you see this in utility businesses all the time. They're forced by regulators often, but equally they do it through competition. In the software industry, apparently, it costs you more money to look after the old stuff. I don't know where they came from with that stuff, but it's crazy. So we also look at growth. You got to look at growth because that's important too. If you're going to buy new licenses, are you going to lose discounts? Okay, so we're looking at growth, and then we got to say what's going to happen if we move away from IBM. We're going to get one discount. If we stay with IBM, we get a different discount. We need to be able to compare the two of them. Okay, so this is what it looks like. You got two scenarios. Again, we haven't met the technical people at this stage at all. All right, there's no need, because first of all we got to see, is 1.9 million saving enough? All right, is it interesting? It looks like actually it doesn't save that much in the first 2 years. So we were debating with the customer, is it actually worth their while? All right, this is less than 50% saving. So you're looking at, okay, how do we do it over 5 years? What do we do next? So to give you a bit of detail, just to break it down, we're looking at a 5.5 million on maintenance with IBM, or a 3.3 million with our scenario. Now remember, that's not, I'd like to think it was 3.3 million for us. It's not. This is a combined spend. This is spending with us and spending a greater amount per unit with IBM for the stuff that's left behind. Okay, so it's important to remember that. Okay, but there's also then the other two costs. The cost of software. Software under IBM naturally will cost them less, based on the assumptions we made, the software from when they're with us. Now, we don't sell the software, but we have to make certain assumptions that they buy it through the channels that exist in the marketplace that were set up by IBM through their authorized model. Can they buy it? It's going to cost them more. We got to build that into the model. But we still end up with a 1.9 million saving. Okay? The actual outcome was different. The actual outcome was 2.6 million, because here's what happened. We ended up coming into the customer, and eventually we got to talk to the Cognos guys. And the Cognos guy says, actually, we're running a version of Cognos that actually is going to be end of support in April. So we're talking to them in November, and it's going to be April next year. And we said, well, why would you keep support with IBM? Because it's going to cost you even more than the 5.5 million, because either it's going to cost you more through a project to upgrade it, and I think I spoke to someone earlier who just told me he'd just done that. Okay, in the last 12 months, very painful, and the only reason they did it was to stay on support. The guy said to me, I wish I'd met you a year ago. All right. Now, this often happens to us, but we're here today, and the opportunities are still there in the future. But this company was like, all right, we're on 10.2. It's going to be out of support. We're going to need to figure out what we do next. It was logical they moved it to us straight away. Okay, they didn't need to do it. It meant they avoided extended support costs, and they avoided any upgrade costs. The other things about this, so they moved the decision to us earlier. Information server, they decided to leave with IBM. We then got details of their SSO contract, the details we were missing at the early part of the cycle. Because remember, you don't have to be 100% accurate at the beginning, but you do have to be when you're coming over the line. So we have to get the details. What's really going to happen? If you're going to get this signed off, you're going to have to know from your people, from your business. The business people are going to be asking you, what does it really mean? Have you read the contract? Well, they did, and they realized actually our assumptions were too generous to our scenario, so they were negative. So we had to adjust those numbers. Cognos, WebSphere, Infomix, IMQ, all successfully migrated to us. And ultimately, this is what the picture ended up looking like. It ended up, the maintenance went down from 3.3 million to 2.7 million. But the software costs, because of those terms in the SO deal, went up. So they ended up having to, remember, that 707K is an estimate. It's an estimate based on growth. Obviously, if the growth numbers are wrong, that's going to go up or down depending on whether they've overestimated or underestimated. But you're ending up with a 2.6 million saving. That's real saving. That's cost avoidance in terms of like the numbers they would have to spend and continue to spend at a minimum is 5.5 million, and we're saying you're going to spend 2.7 million on this side, total saving of 2.6 million. So why do they pick us, ladies and gentlemen? Why do they come to us? I talked about trying to save you. Well, ultimately, that's our role in life. But what do? We save clients an average of 60%, okay? In that case, it's 51%, just over 50% in real saving. But when you add in the project avoidance and the forced upgrade avoidance and the extended support costs that they don't have to pay, the savings become far, far greater than 60%. In some cases, they can be as high as 90%. Because some of this extended support costs, there is no price book for it. It depends on the geography, it depends on the product. So wherever you are in the world, you might get a different price from IBM. It depends how many other companies. Because it doesn't come from their software group, it comes from global services or the technical services side of the business. We've got dedicated IBM resources, ex-IBM people who are no longer working for IBM, no longer working on these products in the same way as they were before. Why? Because people are not upgrading them. Their profile, these products are stable. They're fit for purpose. So the volumes of upgrades, so the work they're getting has changed. And we've come along to help those people, and we're giving them back to IBM end users in a much more intimate and professional way. We have a platform. All of those part numbers, told you why we love part numbers. We spent the last 6-7 years building a platform that we believe allows you to see everything that you want to know about those part numbers, what the product is. And this gives us control. It gives us visibility, but also gives it to you. We share this with you to make sure at no point, because remember, at the end of the day, these are perpetual licenses between you and IBM, all right? We don't get in the middle here. We act on your behalf. You have certain obligations to them, naturally, but they also have certain obligations to you. Let's not forget that. You've earned certain and paid for certain entitlements. We make sure you get those, and you do it in a proper way. So finally then, what you end up is a situation where you've got certainty, you've got legal certainty, you've got entitlement certainty, and you've got contractual certainty. One final slide before I just tell you some of the customers we have, and some people are here today, we do business with, which is fantastic. Just as a summary, for most customers, now it does depend, this is valid, right? And the reason why there's a little star there, I'll explain that to you, because remember, it says that as of the last date of your SNS, you have an entitlement to IBM software versions, okay? So people always ask me, can I get new versions? A new version is different for everybody, because somebody might be on a version that came out 5 years ago, and if they move to a version that came out 2 years ago, that's a new version to them, all right? Somebody's on a version that came out today, they might need the version that comes out tomorrow. They're the guys we say stay with IBM. But if you fall into the first category, then this is what this model is exactly right for you. And ultimately then, we don't mind what version you have. You can drive that car for as long as you want. Some of the people who've driven the car, you could see some of the people here. There's big organizations. Our business is about providing service globally. We have customers just signed in Australia, a second customer in Australia. We've got customers here in the United States. You can tell by my accent that it's not an American accent, unfortunately. I hope you'll forgive me. I hope you understood me. And I hope you'll come to booth 114 and have a conversation with us. And if I can save you from fear, I've done my job. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.